Modern movies are filled with superheroes in capes and high-tech suits. But long before comic books, people used epic myths to understand the nature of power. In the mountains of Armenia, that hero was an orphan named David of Sassoun. He didn't have a suit or a secret identity. He just had a problem. He was remarkably, dangerously strong. David possessed the raw physical force of a giant, but he lacked the discipline to guide it. In these early years, his power was a chaotic force of nature rather than a tool. Even a simple game of catch with the other children could turn into a disaster. If David skipped a stone across a lake, that stone wouldn't just bounce. It would fly across the valley and shatter a mountain peak into gravel. David watched as the other children began to avoid him, terrified of what he might accidentally break next. Realizing he was becoming a threat to his own neighbors, David set out to find the source of his strength, hoping his ancestors left behind a way to control it. His search led him deep into a hidden, glowing underwater spring. At the bottom, he discovered a cavern where the tools of his family's legacy had been waiting for generations. There, he met Kurkik Jalali, a magical horse born of fire and water. Unlike a normal animal, this horse possessed the power of flight and the ability to speak, offering David the strategic wisdom he lacked. Alongside the horse was Kurkik, the lightning sword. It was a weapon forged to channel storms, capable of slicing through solid granite with a single swing. Today, David's silhouette stands at the center of the Armenian capital, cast in bronze. This image of the rider and his sword has been reproduced for centuries, serving as a physical reminder of the moment the orphan finally stepped into his role as a protector. With the horse to guide him and the sword to focus his strength, David was no longer a danger to Sasun. He was its greatest defense. But that defense would soon be tested by King Misra Melek. Melek was a ruler who used his immense size and influence for a single purpose: the systematic accumulation of wealth and territory. Melek sent a fleet of tax collectors into Sasun, demanding the villagers surrender their gold and treasures as a sign of submission. David didn't negotiate. He drew the lightning sword and drove the collectors back across the border, effectively declaring Sasun's independence. For a king built on total domination, this defiance was intolerable. Misra Melek challenged David to a winner-takes-all duel to prove whose power was absolute. The rules were simple and brutal. The two giants would stand in a massive arena and take turns striking one another until only one remained. Despite his own size, Melek was terrified of the rumors surrounding David's strength. When it was David's turn to strike, the king decided to cheat the rules of the duel to ensure his survival. Melek retreated into a deep pit, covered by 40 massive millstones and 40 thick buffalo hides, an impenetrable bunker. David didn't object. He simply flew high into the clouds, positioning himself for a single, vertical strike. The physics of the duel were now set: a meteor-like strike from the clouds, meeting a fortification of 80 distinct layers of stone and hide. David brought the lightning sword down. The blade didn't just hit the barrier, it ignored it. It sliced through all 40 hides and all 40 stones, continuing through the king at the bottom until the blade buried itself in the earth. As the dust settled, the arena was silent. Melek's defenses were in pieces, and David stood over the king's ruined bunker, his victory total. Melek's army watched from the sidelines, certain they were about to be slaughtered by the man who had just cut through 80 layers of solid material. But as David looked at them, he didn't show anger. He told the soldiers to put down their weapons and go back to their families. He issued a single warning: they were free to live in peace, as long as they remembered the weight of the lightning sword. David of Sassoun's legend suggests that having the capacity to destroy is only half of the heroic equation. The true measure of power is the discipline to withhold it, choosing mercy at the exact moment you have the total advantage.